was the year 2006. I was at my youngest uncle's wedding, and he was the youngest of his generation, and the relatives were talking about, wow, so this is the final marriage of this generation, how I look forward to the next marriage. And they were looking around, so who's the next one to be married? All eyes turned to me, the eldest of my generation, the apple of my parents' eyes, someone who my grandmother was extremely proud of, and she looked at me and she said, you know what, I'm going to find the most beautiful girl for this guy, I'm going to find her for him and get him married in the grandest of weddings ever. And she looked at me with the most amount of pride ever. 2 weeks ago, the same woman over Skype told me to wait until she dies before I choose to marry the woman that I've chosen to marry for myself. Contest chair, organizing chair, judges, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Tonight, I'm going to tell you guys a story, a love story. It's very much akin to the ingredients that you find in a Bollywood movie. The hero who falls in love with the heroine who at first doesn't like the hero but somehow or other falls in love with him afterwards. The families, they just can't seem to get along well, and the hero and the heroine must fight the families and elope together and they live happily ever after. Well, that's not quite my story because I'm still stuck at the part where the families are not happy with each other and the parents and the guy and the girl themselves. Why? You know, this story has been wreaking havoc in my personal life for the past 3 to 4 weeks. Why, you may ask? Because I chose to fall in love. Something which a good Indian son should never ever do. Something that you only look at in Bollywood movies and that's pretty much it. You leave the theater and you forget about love. Why is it wreaking so much havoc? Because I chose to fall in love and I chose to marry the girl that I fell in love with. A privilege that is only for the parents and only for the families to choose for you. You don't get to choose who you get married. That's not how it happens in Indian culture. Why is it wreaking so much havoc? Because I chose to love and marry the woman who is of a different race, different religion, different culture, and different language altogether. A concoction that yields such a bitter pill that was too difficult for my family, who has a long-standing tradition of over 100 years of arranged marriage, to ever swallow. Now, at first I thought, hey, you know, it wouldn't be that bad, because I had this uncle who chose to marry a love marriage. He got together in a love marriage, and it was just barely 2 or 3 years ago that he did, and I was like, okay, you know what, at least I'm not the first one to do this. And I went into this relationship thinking that's fine, you know, at least I have some predecessor to look up to. Barely 3 weeks ago, his marriage ended in a divorce. the only man who chose to go to the love marriage route, and his marriage ended up in divorce. And that was the kind of situation that I was looking at. So where does this story begin? This story begins with me and my friend, my best friend of over 5 years. And we were the only ones. Basically, we were together and having fun while going out with each other as friends for the longest period of time. I was firmly in the friend zone, if you guys know what that means. And well, long story short, I somehow got out of the friend zone, and as best friends tend to do, it's not like a very exquisite proposal that you have to put up. You just have to, you know, tell her that would you like to be my girlfriend, and that was it. You know, we got together. So at that point of time, we knew that the reason we were getting together was because we could communicate very well with each other. It was something that was the most constant thing in our lives. Despite everything else changing, we could always talk with each other every single time we met over the past 5 years. It was the most beautiful thing in our lives. However, both of us knew our parents would have the biggest issue with our partner. Her side of family was a very Christian family. They knew that the son-in-law must be a Christian boy. Knowing me, my girlfriend knew I was the biggest anti-religious guy in the world, and refused to step into a church ever. And despite that, she kind of knew that, okay, this is something that the parents are not going to be happy with. My side of the family was totally different. I mean, I kind of knew that they want a typical Indian arranged marriage, but damn Bollywood. You know, every single Bollywood movie that you look at, they're always more than happy to have the hero marry the heroine from a different religion, from a different race, and they sing and dance, go around the trees, and every Saturday it's like, wow, the best thing ever. And I used to think that, oh, you know what, if my parents are entertained and they actually enjoy all that, it might work out for me, right? Well, we'll get to that part later. Anyway, so at that point of time, we knew that our parents shouldn't know about what's happening. and we kind of hid it from our parents. And for her mom found out within 3 weeks that we were in a relationship, in a few months, sorry. And the reason was because she was too happy at home. Mom knew straight away that something was amiss. She was bouncing around a bit too much, and straight away I was summoned to the house, and that's when my Toastmasters skills came in to the best use. All right, so I had to talk to her parents, I had to talk to her dad, and they kind of realized where I was coming from and why I fell in love with the daughter, and they were fine with me, right? But the biggest struggles were yet to come. My parents didn't know until recently, where they read my personal chat with her accidentally in a very awkward way. And basically that's when they came to know that me and her were actually very serious in a relationship. And they summoned her, and that was basically a scene out of the most dramatic Korean drama that you can ever think of. With the mother-in-law who is trying to be the monster-in-law, and she just basically becomes extremely aggressive to my girlfriend and keeps telling her, why do you choose my son, what's wrong with you, and stuff like that. While my dad, on the other hand, is a scientist, he's a PhD holder, and he just sits down, tells her very calmly, you know what, I'm not interested in your race or religion, I'm totally fine with that, I'm more interested in your genetics. I could see in her face, she wanted to cry at what my mom was saying, and she wanted to laugh at what my dad was saying, and then she just had that weird kind of smile. And at that point of time, I was aghast because I never thought my family would have to go through this. My own mother who loved me so much, my own grandmother who loved me so much, would have this kind of doubts about the choice that I made. And it was at that point of time, I wouldn't actually blame them. It was not their fault as to why they are like that. It's because of the society that they grew up in. They were taught to value tradition. They were taught to respect history. And they were taught to take the next step, bearing in mind the advice of the elders. Every single rule that was broken by me. And that was when I realized I have to stand by my girl. I have to stand by her, and I will stand by her till the day I put a ring on her finger. And that, my friends, is what you should do, because you wouldn't know what's true love until you really fight for it. So do fight for your true love, and it will end in a happy ending. Thank you.